How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over my league starter for the Settlers of Kalguur League, and I am going to be starting on Elemental Hit Warden. And with this, I will be starting on Warden. I know some people are going to recommend that we should be starting on Deadeye, but I don't really care about how long it takes to level, just because I'm going to be leveling in a group anyways. If you are leveling solo, you might be better off starting as Deadeye. They do get a little bit extra things. They are going to get Gathering Winds early. You will get those extra projectiles before you're getting them on the tree. So you can pretty much still use the same tree and everything, except to just run Deadeye instead of Warden, and it's most likely going to be a little bit faster. But at the end of the day, it really shouldn't impact things too much either way. I'm just trying to ensure that I don't have to either spend gold at the beginning or even spend any regret orbs or anything like that to do a respec. And I just kind of want to see what the leveling experience is like on Warden anyways. So it's a good opportunity to test it and kind of get a feel for it. And let's kind of go over what has changed since the last video. So they have implemented the final, I guess, nerfed version of the Taming, which isn't really a nerf. It's basically, we knew it was going to have to get changed because it was going to get crazy if it wasn't. But with the Taming here, it has been changed to where you will get 40% increased elemental damage with hits for each ailment type that is on the enemy. This should go up to 48% with quality on the rings. For this, so because you're going to have 4 elements on all the time with elemental hit, then you will be getting 192% or 160% increased damage with increased elemental damage on your gear. For this, basically, again, the Taming is going to be unbeatable. There's not really going to be anything better you can get. For day 1 gear, I'm not really expecting to have Tamings yet. I think they might get kind of expensive because of what's going on with the league stuff. But kind of for day 1 gear, you're looking to basically get an Essence Crafted Bow. You're basically just trying to hit Tri-LE with attack speed. You might have to use a couple Essences, even if you're going to use lower tier ones, just to try to hit the 3 LEs plus attack speed, or with the empty slot to basically craft on whatever is missing. For a bow, you're pretty much just looking for an attack speed with life bow. If you get crit multi on there, it's nice, or any other additional damage, or you're not expecting an extra projectile yet, but if you get it, it's always great. Same thing with the bow. If you get an extra projectile instead of attack speed, that's nice. You'll take it, but it's not an expectation. Then everything else is pretty much just, you're going to get a tabula. Painseeker gloves are tier 5 unique. These will be able, you should be able to get them for one chaos, or just find them yourself. Lionized paws are going to be the same. They should be very inexpensive. Very, very easy to get. They will resolve a lot of your strength issues as well. And then we have career reward. You'll typically have, if you don't have a career reward, again, you can just use any necklace you can find. It doesn't really matter. You might want to just get the extra resistances out of your neck. With just standard stuff on it. And then for your rings, you're looking for elemental damage with attack skills, and then resistances and life. These themselves aren't typically that expensive with, 70, 80 res like that. You can get them, and then if you do end up getting a chance to spend some money, Bisco's Leash is always nice just for a source of rampage. Typically, we'd be using Shadows and Dust Gloves, but because we are going to be using Pain Seekers because of the big interactions with Warden, we want to go ahead and do that. So Pain Seeker Gloves are going to be used because if you're going to use Shadows and Dust, we were originally relying on the Rising Tempest up here, but they did end up changing that. They got rid of it because it was going to be the same thing as the Taming, where with Warden it was going to end up giving us a case where you're going to getting a free 500 to 1,000% effect of ailments, or non-damaging ailments rather, which was just going to make Warden too strong, so they had to change it. Lasting Tempest is probably still going to end up wanting to be the anointment that you want to go for, just for the increased duration of elemental ailments. What this is going to do is it's going to make sure that you're actually able to get up to 50 shock stacks, because otherwise your shocks just aren't lasting long enough. With this on, your shocks will be lasting like 3.5 to 4 seconds. So you shouldn't really be having any issues with that, to ensure that you can keep on the ailments as long as you need to actually get the stacks up. For your tree itself, What we're going to want to do here is you will want to just basically start. You're going straight down. You're rushing into precise technique. If you want to take the extra movement speed here on the way, you can do that. You can take this movement speed. You can take the movement speed at aspect of the links. It really comes down to personal preference if you want to grab those first, or if you want to rush precise technique and the onslaught first. Again, it really comes down to personal preference. I personally like running and getting the movement speed first. But I think for most people, just getting the extra damage is going to give them a better experience overall without having to worry about dying as much. And then so I have a tree here for Act 2, going all the way up to Act 4, and then up to Act 7. Here you can see as we start to go, once you finish out this pathing down to the bottom, you're basically just pushing and grabbing the additional projectiles, and then you're pushing up to the leech. So you can move off of your mana flask and life flask. And then as we get to a setup here, I just have a setup for before you get inspired learnings, and then just a setup for inspired learnings. We're not really changing too much in regards to the tree. In regards to the tree for Act 2, or Act 3 rather, Act 4, you're going to want to be taking the Oath of Winter first, I believe. I think this is going to be the best just because of the fact that getting these extra long freezes are going to be really big defensively early on. The Scorches, there isn't really a good fire skill to be leveling with, and I don't really feel like using Anger as your aura early on, because I'd rather just continue to run around with Haste and Herald of Ice. And then same thing with the Shocks, you're just not going to be hitting things enough to justify using the Shock first. So in Act 4 for our normal lab, we are going to be taking the freeze, and then for your cruel lab, you're taking Avatar of the Wilds, and for your Merc lab, I recommend taking Oath of Summer, and then you take the Shock one last. It's much easier to, again, get a decent chunk of things or effect out of the 2 Scorches you're going to get, which I think is going to give you a bigger push on your damage than trying to ensure that you are hitting things, 50 times in a short amount of time. And then the same thing is going on again for the tree here. We have covered these skills here. I didn't cover too many of these. I just literally have a starting leveling, which is pretty standard bow leveling, whether it's Deadeye or Raider, whatever it is. You're just starting on Galvanic. You pick up your Shrapnel Ballista. You start out with your movement skill. You swap it to Flame Dash, put on a Blink. You have the Sniper's Mark, and then again you take Herald of Ice in Act 2. And then I put a Ice Shot on Mana Forged Arrows for... again, because we're going to be taking advantage of this with the setup with normal lab. And then we will go into our mid-leveling here, which is we will end up swapping out and running to a Rain of Arrows setup here with Artillery Ballista, and then we have Storm Rain on Mana Forged Arrows, and then we will be still running the same thing with Haste Herald of Ice, but we'll be running added Cold on Rain of Arrows, so we're using that as our cold source to ensure we're going to be pushing those freezes. And yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And then I basically just move into a early maps tree here, which is pretty much just the links for a 5 link instead. You'll have 1/6 link, I think. Again, just rushing a tabula is not that hard. So we're going to basically just be running that. And then if you don't have Rain of Arrows of Saturation, just run this again with... we won't be running the Peacock on this. I'll actually fix this right now. So I'll get this fixed in the POV that I link below. But yeah, so if you're looking around for more detailed leveling stuff, I'm sure Tai or someone has some detailed Ranger leveling. It doesn't really change that much from league to league. So at the end of the day, it really isn't going to change things too much. It's basically just the endgame trees kind of where things start to diverge a bit. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And other than that, see you in the next one.